As the weary bus pulled off the dust-swathed road and crunched onto the gravel driveway, the chattering of excited children was swallowed by a vast canopy of rustling pine trees. The grating metallic screech of the bus doors slid open to reveal the idyllic summer paradise camp, nestled in the heart of a sun-dappled forest. From the outside, it looked like the perfect embodiment of childhood summer memories. The rustic log cabins, the looming climbing wall, the shimmering lake, everything echoed with the promise of adventure and the sweet taste of freedom that only summer camp could offer. But beneath the radiant summer sun, shadows stirred in the depth of the forest. There was an eerie hush in the wind, a sound almost like whispering leaves sharing ancient secrets. Jonathan, a 12-year-old boy with a mess of chestnut hair and wide, curious eyes, stepped down from the bus. He was eager but also a tad apprehensive. It was his first time away from his parents for such a long stretch. He gazed around the camp, drinking in the sight, from the distant archery targets to the sprawling mess hall that stood like a proud patriarch overlooking the site. Camp Director Mr. Adams, a stout man with a hearty laugh and a perpetually sunburnt face, greeted the children as they filed out. His eyes, however, always seemed to hold a glint of something secretive. As Jonathan joined the other children listening to Mr. Adams's welcoming speech, his eyes were drawn towards an old cabin nestled towards the far end of the camp, half hidden behind towering trees. It was different from the other cheery-looking ones. Its windows were boarded up, its paint peeling off. The roof creaked under the weight of age and neglect. There was an aura of abandonment around it, a clear sign that it wasn't meant for them. In the evening, the camp buzzed with the sound of laughter and campfire songs, a soothing symphony of joy and camaraderie. But as Jonathan lay in his cabin bed, the wind carried a different tune to his ears. The whispering of the leaves grew louder, bearing a melodic yet ominous cadence that intertwined with the distant hoots of owls. The shadows, lengthened under the silver moonlight, seemed to dance with an uncanny life of their own. As sleep beckoned him, Jonathan found his thoughts circling back to the abandoned cabin. Its haunting image was now etched into his mind. The whispering wind, the secret it seemed to hold, and Mr. Adams's obscured eyes. His summer adventure had just begun. But unbeknownst to him, this was no ordinary camp. Little did he know, summer paradise was not as it seemed, and he was on the brink of uncovering secrets that were better left untouched. His childlike curiosity would soon plunge him into an adventure far more mysterious and frightening than he had ever imagined. The whispering leaves, the deserted cabin, the secrets in Mr. Adams's eyes. These weren't just camp folklore. They were threads in the dark tapestry of a history shrouded in mystery, waiting to be unraveled. Unsettling dreams filled his sleep that night. Dreams filled with shadowy figures, whispers in the wind, and the old abandoned cabin looming ominously. And each dream ended with the same haunting line echoing through his mind like a grim prophecy. Summer paradise isn't what it seems. As the first chapter of the summer adventure ended, the stage was set for a story that promised to be far from ordinary. The tale of the summer paradise had begun, and with it, the unfurling of secrets as old as the whispering pines themselves. Morning arrived with a golden glow that painted the camp in hues of warmth. But Jonathan's mind was a tangle of the unsettling dreams from the previous night. The whispering trees, the spectral figures, the cryptic warning, all twined around the image of the derelict cabin. After breakfast, the children were sent off to their scheduled activities. Yet, Jonathan found his curiosity pulled towards the forsaken cabin. As if drawn by an invisible thread, he strayed from the cheery noise of his peers and ventured towards its shadowy outline. The cabin was an island of desolation amid the vibrant bustle of the camp. The closer Jonathan approached, the more his heart pounded with a mingling of fear and fascination. The wind seemed to intensify, stirring the pine trees into an eerie ballet, their whispering leaves echoing louder. Jonathan hesitated at the entrance. The door creaked mournfully on its rusty hinges, revealing a darkened interior filled with a chilling silence that seemed to scream unwelcome. He took a deep breath, pushed the fear down, and stepped over the threshold. The cabin was a relic of the past. Dusty furniture was shrouded under worn-out sheets, cobwebs hung like lace curtains, and an old fireplace held the remnants of long-extinguished embers. The air was thick with the scent of neglect, the passage of time evident in every decaying corner. In the dim light filtering through the boarded windows, Jonathan noticed an old desk. The years had not been kind, but the grandeur of its intricate carvings peeked through the grime. A sense of intrigue overpowered him, and he approached, pulling open a squeaky drawer. Inside lay a dusty, leather-bound journal. Its pages, yellowed with age, bore handwriting that danced in a rhythmic scrawl. Jonathan's eyes widened as he began to read. The entries were dated decades back, narrating the history of the camp from a perspective that seemed eerily personal. They told of joyous summers and bright-eyed children, but also of inexplicable happenings, of chilling whispers, and spectral figures in the night. It was the private chronicle of a previous camp director, Mr. Gregory. The last entry was disturbing. It watches from the shadows, the heart of the camp, hidden in plain sight. Its whispering tendrils reach out. Do not listen. Do not seek. The truth is a curse we bear. A chill ran down Jonathan's spine. His thoughts returned to the dream, the whispering pines, the warning. An icy dread seeped into his heart. Was this related to the spectral figures, to the strange atmosphere around the cabin? Was there something malevolent buried in the history of Summer Paradise Camp? Just then, a sharp gust of wind blew the cabin door shut with a thunderous bang, plunging the room into darkness. Jonathan's heart raced. He fumbled for the door, the room seeming to close in on him. His breath hitched as a chilling whisper curled around him, seemingly coming from the walls themselves. Summer Paradise isn't what it seems. With a jolt, Jonathan pushed the door open and ran, the haunting echo of the whisper chasing him. As he emerged into the sunlight, the bustling camp seemed worlds away from the eerie time capsule he'd just escaped from. A secret lay buried within Summer Paradise, a shadow from the past, reaching out through the whispers of the pines and the pages of an old journal. As fear and curiosity waged war within him, Jonathan knew one thing for certain. This was no ordinary summer camp. His real adventure had just begun. The rest of the day was a blur for Jonathan. He moved mechanically through his camp activities, his mind clouded by the haunting words he'd read and the spectral whispers he'd heard. As night fell, a cool breeze slipped through the camp, stirring the towering pines into an ominous rustle. The campfire seemed less comforting now, its dancing flames casting long, flickering shadows that reminded Jonathan of spectral figures from his dreams. Back in his cabin, sleep eluded him. The night was thick with silence, broken only by the gentle hoots of an owl and the ceaseless whispering of the pines. The words of the journal, the warning, resonated in his mind, transforming the familiar sounds of the camp into an eerie symphony. The once benign chirping of crickets now seemed to carry hidden messages, and every rustle of the leaves felt like unseen creatures lurking in the dark. In the pitch-black room, a sense of foreboding gripped Jonathan. He clutched his blanket tighter, his eyes wide open, scanning the darkness. Suddenly, a new sound pierced the silence, a low, melodic whisper that seemed to be coming from outside the cabin. It was the same chilling whisper he'd heard in the abandoned cabin. Fear made him hesitate, but curiosity won. Clutching a flashlight, Jonathan followed the sound. The beam of his flashlight pierced the darkness, revealing the familiar path towards the eerie cabin. The whisper grew louder, an otherworldly lullaby that sent chills down his spine. Hesitating at the cabin's entrance, he remembered the warning, "Do not seek." But the whispers beckoned him, pulling him deeper into the mystery. Mustering his courage, he pushed open the door. Inside, the cabin was as he'd left it, save for a strange glow emanating from the corner. Holding his breath, he moved towards it. The glow was coming from beneath the wooden floorboards, a radiant light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the whispers. Jonathan pried open the floorboard, revealing a hidden cavity. Inside lay a small, rustic box, bathed in the ethereal glow. His hands trembled as he opened the box. Inside, a beautiful yet eerie crystal amulet lay nestled. It was the source of the glow, a luminescent heart beating in sync with the whispers that now seemed to envelop Jonathan, permeating his senses. The whispers crescendoed. filling his head with flashes of disturbing images, shadowy figures, the spectral trees, terrified children, and a daunting entity rising from the lake. Each image pulsed in time with the glowing amulet, and a terrible realization dawned upon Jonathan. The amulet, the whispers, the abandoned cabin, they were all connected to the malevolent secret of the summer paradise camp. As he snapped the box shut, plunging the cabin back into darkness, a new whisper joined the chorus, one that froze his blood. "You found it. Now, it's found you." Dread wound its icy tendrils around him, and Jonathan fled, leaving behind the pulsating glow of the amulet and the lingering whispers in the cabin. The once welcoming camp now seemed like a nightmarish landscape. The secret of the camp was far more ominous than he'd imagined, and he was now entwined within its spectral threads. His adventure had taken a terrifying turn, and there was no going back. The following morning, Jonathan woke up to a frenzied camp. Peter, a fellow camper, had vanished. The last anyone saw of him was the previous evening at the campfire. His empty bed and untouched belongings pointed towards an inexplicable disappearance, amplifying the dread Jonathan was already feeling. Could this be related to the secrets he had uncovered? With the camp under a cloud of worry, activities were put on hold. The camp staff, led by Mr. Adams, organized a search party, combing the woods and every corner of the camp. Despite their efforts, Peter remained missing, and by evening, the local authorities were called in. Jonathan, haunted by his findings and the eerie whispers, couldn't shake off the feeling that Peter's disappearance was tied to the haunting mystery of the camp. The words, "Now it's found you," echoed ominously in his mind. Did the entity find Peter because of him? Was he responsible for his friend's disappearance? Haunted by guilt and fear, he decided to revisit the abandoned cabin. As he approached, he noticed something unusual: fresh footprints leading to the cabin. They were Peter's. Jonathan would recognize those custom hiking boots anywhere. A sense of dread filled him. Inside the cabin, the air was thick with the same chilling whispers, but there was a new intensity to them. The amulet was no longer in the hidden cavity. Panic surged through Jonathan. Did Peter find the amulet? Did he unleash something? Suddenly, a ghastly scream tore through the quiet forest, a scream filled with pure terror. It was coming from the lake. Without thinking, Jonathan ran towards the sound, his heart pounding. Reaching the lake shore, he was met with a chilling scene. The normally serene lake was now a tumultuous whirlpool, its center glowing with the same ethereal light as the amulet. Among the chaos, he spotted something: Peter's custom hiking boots lying abandoned at the water's edge. Jonathan felt a chill run down his spine. The image from his vision, of a daunting entity rising from the lake, rushed back. Was this the entity? Did it take Peter? Just then, a cold wind swept across the lake, and a deep, otherworldly voice echoed around him. "The secret of the summer paradise has awakened." The words, though not loud, resonated with an uncanny power, silencing even the roaring lake. Terror gripped Jonathan. The once innocent summer camp had transformed into a playground of spectral whispers and ancient secrets. His discovery had led to an unforeseen consequence, unraveling a haunting narrative of his summer. Peter's mysterious disappearance and the ominous entity in the lake were pieces of a terrifying puzzle. The secret of the summer paradise camp was far from solved. It was only starting to awaken. In the aftermath of the chilling events at the lake, the camp was in turmoil. The authorities were baffled. The whirlpool had vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving behind a calm, innocuous lake that held no trace of the terror it had unleashed. Peter's disappearance was still a mystery, but for Jonathan, the picture was becoming horrifyingly clear. Isolated in his fear and guilt, Jonathan grappled with the reality of his situation. He had awakened something ancient and terrifying, and his friend had paid the price. There was a malevolent presence in the camp, linked to the whispers, the amulet, and now the lake. That night, sleep was impossible. The darkness outside was alive with spectral whispers, growing louder and more insistent. In their low hum, he could almost make out a melody, a haunting lullaby that echoed in his mind. The melody felt familiar, like a long-forgotten song he once knew, a piece of a haunting memory. Drawn by the lullaby, he found himself wandering towards the abandoned cabin again. Inside, the whispers transformed into a chorus, the melody of the lullaby more distinct now. In the cabin, a single word materialized from the whispers, piercing through the melody. Return. The word echoed, morphing into an urgent plea. The plea was not menacing, but filled with a profound sadness. In that moment, Jonathan understood. The entity was not evil, but a tragic figure bound by an ancient curse. It did not wish to harm, but sought release. The whispers, the apparitions, even Peter's disappearance, were not acts of malevolence, but desperate attempts at communication. But how could he break the curse? As if in response to his unspoken question, the spectral whispers guided him towards the journal of the previous camp director. Frantically flipping through the pages, Jonathan found an overlooked entry. The heart must return to where it belongs, only then will the curse be lifted. Realization hit him. The heart referred to the amulet, which must be returned to its rightful place. But where could that be? His mind raced back to his visions. The entity rising from the lake. The lake! With newfound determination, Jonathan grabbed the amulet, which had been returned mysteriously to the cabin, and raced towards the lake. The haunting lullaby echoed around him, the whispers of the trees cheering him on, guiding him. As he reached the lakeshore, he hesitated, and then with a deep breath, he tossed the glowing amulet into the water. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the lake began to glow, the amulet's light spreading across its surface. The spectral whispers reached a crescendo, filling the air with their haunting melody. And then, as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The lake returned to its normal state. The whispers, the chilling lullaby, the spectral apparitions all disappeared, replaced by the gentle sounds of a summer night. Relief washed over Jonathan as he realized he had broken the curse. Yet one question remained. Where was Peter? As if on cue, a figure emerged from the woods, disoriented and scared, but unharmed. It was Peter. He had no recollection of the events after discovering the amulet, like he'd been in a deep sleep. With the curse lifted and Peter returned, the camp regained its tranquility. But for Jonathan, the summer paradise camp would never be the same. He had faced the spectral whispers, unraveled a haunting mystery, and lifted an ancient curse. He knew that beneath the veneer of every summer paradise, there might lurk a chilling secret waiting to be awakened. With Peter's return and the spectral whispers silenced, the camp seemed to revert to its former state of serene summer charm. The events of the past few days, however, left an indelible mark on Jonathan. He was forever changed, forever aware of the thin veil that separated the world he knew from the one that lurked in the shadows. Peter had no memory of his disappearance or the ethereal terror of the entity. For him, the terror was forgotten as quickly as a dream upon waking. But for Jonathan, the haunting memory was etched deep within his psyche. Even as he joined his fellow campers in the normalcy of camp activities, his mind remained partially trapped within the eerie events of the recent past. As days turned into nights, the tranquility of the camp began to feel uncanny. The laughing children, the sparkling lake, the rustling leaves, it all felt like a staged play, a deceptive cover for the haunting mystery that lay underneath. A part of Jonathan yearned for the spectral whispers, yearned for a sign that he had not imagined the terrifying ordeal. One night, as the campfire tales reached their peak, a chill wind blew through the camp. A hush fell over the campers, and for a moment it felt as if time stood still. It was a familiar sensation, one that filled Jonathan with dread. Was the curse returning? Was the entity not completely gone? Fearful, he excused himself and moved towards the abandoned cabin, a place that was now inexorably linked to his haunting memories. As he approached, he noticed the cabin was no longer shrouded in an eerie aura. It was just an old, abandoned cabin, devoid of spectral whispers or ethereal lights. But as he moved closer, he noticed something strange, a soft, pulsating glow emanating from inside. Inside the cabin, a spectral light bathed the room. The amulet. It was back in its hiding place under the cabin floor. But how? Jonathan had thrown it into the lake himself, he was sure of it. A chilling realization washed over him. The entity was still present, its ties to the summer camp not entirely severed. It was weaker now, unable to whisper or create apparitions, but it was still there, and it was calling out to him. This time, however, Jonathan was not afraid. He had faced the entity once and would do so again. He picked up the amulet and held it tight, feeling its spectral pulse against his skin. A resolute determination filled him as he walked towards the lake, the heart of the haunting entity. As he approached the lake, a sense of peace descended upon him. He could feel the entity's presence, not menacing, but almost grateful. With a final glance at the glowing amulet, he tossed it into the lake. The water glowed momentarily before returning to its calm, moonlit state. Silence reigned over the summer paradise camp, a silence that was not broken by spectral whispers or haunted lullabies. The entity was finally at peace. Its spectral heart returned to its rightful place. As Jonathan walked back to his cabin, the haunting ordeal finally behind him, he couldn't help but feel a sense of melancholic satisfaction. He had come to the camp in search of a simple summer adventure. Instead, he had discovered a haunting mystery, battled a spectral entity, and survived a chilling tale he would carry with him forever. The summer paradise camp was a place of joy and fear, a place of laughter and whispers, a place of haunting memories and unforgettable summer adventures.